Welcome. We are telling tales, and we're currently quite a way through the Throne of Thorns campaign for the Symbaroum tabletop role-playing game from Fria Ligan. And what's more, we stream it for the whole world to see. We're about to return to the campaign after a short time away, and thought a story so far video would be helpful for everyone, whether they want to catch up or just have a reminder of the events so far. It probably goes without saying, but thorough spoilers for both our version of the campaign and the campaign as published. Prologue. Our very first session was a prologue setting the scene for Symbaroum, and was a very heavily adapted version of the first half of the Promised Land story from the core book. A group of somewhat naive adventurers flee from the wasted land of Alberator across the Titans to the new lands of Ambria that their fellow refugees have claimed from the native clans with blood and toil. These adventurers find themselves heading north to the fringes of the dark, mysterious forest of Davakar, where forbidden treasures are rumoured to be found in abundance. There they find horror and death in the heart of a tumble-down ruin. The Promised Land. We then picked up our story a whole 10 years later in the border town of Thistlehold, with a new and more permanent cast of characters. We have former infantryman turned traumatised and ageing guardsman Steo, Ascarai, a changeling scout and archer who remains wary of both Ambrians and elves, Father Antom, a theurg of the sun god Prios, who has arrived on the edge of Davakar to do good works but finds himself unwanted, and Ephenea, a boisterous young warrior of the Odav clan who wishes to find her fortune in the new world of the Ambrian lands. You may have noticed she doesn't have any updated art. Don't worry about it. Our motley crew of misfits sign up with Mother Mihira's agency as sellswords. They deal with some of the aftermath of the ill-fated expedition a decade prior, as two survivors stumble into Thistlehold, corrupted with the forest's influence and pursued by a group of elves with murderous intentions. They are aided by the brutal witch hunter Baumello and have to strike out south across unsettled lands for a bloody and tragic conclusion. Blight Night. On their way back to Thistlehold, the party finds themselves spending the night at the newly built inn of Jackad's Heart, constructed around an ancient shrine. Unexpectedly, the inn is besieged by dark forces in the form of a fallen knight, their tame witch, and a goblin tribe drugged into a berserk fury. After trying mostly unsuccessfully to free the tribe from their bedevilment, Ephenea cuts down the corrupted knight, twice, and claims their sorceress blade for herself. Jackad's Heart becomes a welcome place of relief and solace the group can retreat to from time to time. The Mark of the Beast. Back in Thistlehold, the witch hunter Baumello has returned. This time he is hunting a murderer haunting the town, known only as the Flayer. The party investigates these brutal crimes, sometimes at odds with Baumello, and sometimes working alongside him and his odd crew of helpers. After gaining some insight into the mysterious group known as the Iron Pact, when one of their representatives in Thistlehold is slaughtered by the serial killer, Father Antom is called away to the nearby village of Glimmervan, where he makes a disturbing discovery: the body of Baumello, cut down days ago by a merciless cult. A race against time ensues as Antom attempts to return to warn his friends against the cult leader Odarko, who is currently masquerading as the witch hunter. They have their hands full already as they track down the Flayer, another soul warped and twisted by the forest of Davakar through the awful artifact known as the Copper Crown. Curse of the River Goddess. After being commissioned by the Ordo Magica to go investigate an outpost in the forest that has stopped responding to messages, and which may be the origin of the mysterious Copper Crown, the party heads north by river to the forest town of Jakar. Their travels are less peaceful than they would like, featuring stowaways, deceptive smugglers, and disappearances aboard their riverboat. These disappearances are resolved in an alarming fashion, with a revelation that a monstrous beast clings to the bottom of the vessel and must be killed or driven off if anyone aboard is to escape with their lives. The Tomb of Dying Dreams. The party delves deep into the fringes of the colossal forest of Davokar and arrives at the Ordo Magica outpost dock to find only a few survivors, most of whom have been traumatized to the point of insanity. Something is leeching great swathes of the nearby forest of life, and a wary goblin tribe has taken up residence at the outpost proper. After further investigation, the adventurers meet a self-proclaimed spider goddess, known as Xanatha, who explains to them that many powerful beings are converging on the nearby Tomb of Dying Dreams, in pursuit of a dangerous treasure known as the Vile Water. One of these, the Creeping Darkness, is responsible for the lifeless forest. Xanatha entreats them to retrieve the Vile Water for her from this tomb, the very same place where the Copper Crown was discovered. After entering the tomb through a secret entrance, narrowly avoiding Fangatha the Thorn Queen, another one of the monstrous seekers of the Vile Water, the players discover that this is the resting place of King Hurian Lo Apak, the ancient sorcerer responsible for the crafting of the Copper Crown. In a dramatic confrontation with the cult leader Odarko, who has also tracked down the tomb, everyone is beset by the creeping darkness until Askarai destroys the Vile Water, stunning the cultists and the living void long enough to flee. Not without loss, however, as Ephenea sacrifices her life at a desperate moment in order to allow her friends to escape with their lives and some scavenged treasures. Fever of the Hunt. Now marooned in the forest with no easy way out, the party starts the long trek south. Their situation is briefly improved by meeting some fellow travellers, and then some days later by stumbling across the impromptu frontier settlement of Solindra's Hope. The village is engaged in an archaeological gold rush on a sacred hill of the Karahar clan. But something seems off, and not just the strange roaming herd of animals led by a huge forest spirit, or the presence of a carrot witch and her warriors who warn against further disturbance of the hill. There is also an odd, fervent obsession amongst many of those digging, and an apparent series of murders that leads to the unpleasant discovery that some of the Dark Lords who ravaged the land of Alberator decades ago may still be alive. But these last concerns are cast aside for now, when an elder elf emerges from the ruins beneath the hill, an avatar of the Wild Hunt, who immediately ensorcels much of the population of the village into a battle with the roaming wild animals and spirits that form the focus of his hunt. There is much bloodshed, put to a halt only when Askarai distracts the elf enough with an arrow that the forest spirit can bring him down and trample him to death in the forest earth. But Solindra's hope is lost. The bell tolls for Kastor. Fleeing south once more, the adventurers finally emerge from the forest of Davokar to find themselves at another border town of Ambria, the ill-reputed Kastor. They are accompanied by Semel, an Iron-Pact agent from Solindra's Hope, who assures them they can find welcome in his hometown of Kastor. Unfortunately, this proves false, as instead they are drawn into a web of deceit and corruption that has allowed a monster-worshipping cult to take over Kastor from the shadows. With the help of the elderly war hero Isocles and a hidden band of followers of a pantheon of older gods, supplanted by the sun god Prios, the party destroys the cult but unleashes a colossal windworm from some kind of magical prison. It slithers north to the forest, leaving Kastor safe for now. The Wrath of the Warden. Finally returning to Thistlehold after months away, the group finds themselves accommodating 2 new members made available to them by the agency. First, there is Arin Dar, the last scion of the noble House Dar, who was left disinherited in the horrors that befell the final days of Alberator. Then there is Alindra, a Templar novice who was cast out of the Order for reasons not even truly known to herself. A meeting with a mysterious new client called Anadea leads to chaos, as along with a not inconsiderable portion of the town, she is swallowed up by a great sinkhole, from which burst forth abominations, men and women corrupted by the dark forces of Davokar and seemingly attempting to destroy Thistlehold. A raging conflict ensues through the streets, culminating with a battle at the edges of the sinkhole itself, where many of the authorities and powers of the town make a last stand and drive the abominations back into the caverns from which they came. The party then engages in a protracted set of investigations into Anadea's warnings that Thistlehold was in danger, clearly proved true. There are the witches who arrived shortly before with similar warnings, a threat to the progressive preacher Sarvola from fanatics, seemingly backed by local nobles, and thwarted at the behest of the living saint Lightbringer de Saber the Old. A mission set by agents of the Queen to recover tablets of prophecy for the crown. An expedition beneath the sinkhole that uncovers an island of mystical power beneath, and the revelation that the man-like abominations were once clanfolk, warped by a desire for revenge on the people of Ambria. And through all this, the machinations of a number of corruptive cults within the town, seemingly whipped up into a frenzy by an unknown antagonist that culminates in a devastating raid on the refugee camp of Blackmoor. All of these threads draw together to discover more about the deceased Anadea, who was working directly for the Iron Pact. Visiting the Pact's Hall of 1,000 Tears in Davokar by mystical means, the party discovers that all of this unrest has been caused by a hidden group of arch-cultists who have dragged the severed head of a mighty forest godling back to Thistlehold, and then covered for the events echoing out from this atrocity by manipulating further chaos to their advantage. Taking on the task of righting these wrongs, the adventurers return home to thwart the cultists attempting to deify themselves via further sacrifice of the godling. They rally the aid of a number of individuals indebted to them, and alongside agents of the town guard, the Ordo Magica and the Sun Temple, they raid the cultist headquarters before descending to the Island of Power beneath Thistlehold for a final confrontation with the maddened cult leader. Green as copper. Seeking relief from the notoriety they have accumulated in Thistlehold, the party accepts another contract from the Ordo Magica to head north to the barbarian stronghold of Karvosti. On the way, accompanied by the Ordo agent Ganderald, they are to investigate 2 ruins that may be of some significance to the elves of the forest. The first is also under investigation by a group of fortune hunters, and violent betrayal ensues before the ruins can be delved into. Below the broken stone and forest floor, they discover the surprisingly passive undead former inhabitants, alongside a fearsome guardian beast and considerable treasure. A Blooming Vale. The second ruin is sunk into a deep valley and swiftly becomes dangerous, as spellbound Templars and their squires confront the group. Forced to kill half of them before freeing the others, our adventurers then confront the necromantic lord of this tower palace, before a surprised Elindra cuts him down with ease, her blade seemingly to have further sorceress powers she was unaware of. The lord's tame undead horde chase them out of the valley, ensuring the death of the final Templar on the way, and leaving one squire, Revelia, with the group, deciding to take Elindra as a new master. Father Antom's Interlude. While these previous 2 stories occur, Father Antom is away on a mission of his own. Taking a message from the Lightbringer de Saber to the east, he encounters a number of other travelling companions, including the ranger captain Lindra. They discover trouble on the roads in the form of the fearsome undead bandit lord Mal Rogan, who Antom seemingly destroys before finally making it to the town of Ravenia. There he delivers his message successfully to Duke Inadar, never knowing the contents, but receiving considerable acknowledgement and gratitude from the young Duke. The Witch Hammer. Father Antom catches up with his companions on the barbarian plateau of Karvosti, where the High Chieftain and the Huldra, the head witch of the barbarian clans, both dwell. Before long there are unusual happenings, as the revelation spreads on the plateau that an Ambrian fortune seeker called Elmendra may have discovered the secret location of the lost city of Symbar that lies deep within the forest of Davokar. A Apparently, this information was revealed to her in the witches' tunnels beneath Karvosti, and she has now disappeared. Understandably, many interested parties, including our adventurers, are now trying to follow the same trail. Many are lured by the promise of the legendary treasures of Symbar, but our party is both concerned for the well-being of Elmendra and somewhat determined that others should not delve even deeper into Davokar and unleash the dangers that dwell there. After they help foil 2 attacks, one on the High Chieftain and the other on a nearby Ambrian outpost, both seemingly from the same group of mysterious clanfolk, the party uncovers a number of locations in the forest that need to be visited if they are to follow in Elmendra's footsteps. Unfortunately, many others become aware of these locations as well, and a race against time has begun, against Queen's Rangers, Black Cloaks, and others. This sense of urgency is exacerbated by a growing instability in Ambria, as the Templars secede from the Sun Church for reasons known only to them. First, they travel upriver to the Ambrian religious settlement of Earthmoor, which is under assault from more aggressive clanfolk. Here they ally with their fellow adventurer Degesto, and confront some of the new Templar order, before conversing with a friend of Elmendra's and uncovering some of the layout of the tunnels under Karvosti. Then they travel to a vast palace ruin called Fara Maroon, where they compete with an ill-fated ranger expedition commanded by Captain Lindra for the secrets hidden within. After receiving both help and hindrance from an Iron Pact patrol led by the sage Malahai, they confront the brutal liege troll dominating the ruins, before finding the mechanical secrets to open the door that leads into Karvosti's tunnels. After a return to Karvosti, where they begin by recruiting the youth Malamai as an extra hand and meeting up with old friends, but which ends on a sour note when the entire Ambrian population of the plateau is cast out due to the revelation that Ambria may be marshalling forces against the clanfolk. The party travels to the west, to the shores of Lake Volgoma, where Yeferon Isle yields the final clues they need. On this cursed island, the adventurers discover dark revelations of the past, before they are granted knowledge of where that gate to Karvosti's tunnels can be found. Now, with all the information they require, the party and their allies return to Karvosti to attempt to recover before the final push. But they discover the plateau under siege, as the Ambrian army has indeed arrived, under Queen Corinthia herself. She desires the knowledge of Symbar, and her agents come to a tentative agreement with our adventurers to join forces and bring the secrets under Karvosti back for them. Uniting with captains Marvello and Lindra, they venture to the tunnel gate, where they discover the leader of the Black Cloak expedition, Father Salage, waiting for them. In the tunnels beneath Karvosti, closed off from the witches above due to a lethal infestation of spiders, they encounter many strange sights and ancient secrets as they follow in Elmendra's footsteps. This culminates in the betrayal of Father Salage, who steals away the tablets holding the secrets of Symbar. The party chases after him and catches up on the shores of Lake Volgoma, where the Black Cloak reveals the expedition has left him believing that no one should find the lost city. He wishes to destroy the tablets forever. Our adventurers agree, but take a copy of the tablets for themselves. They return for a final time to Karvosti, where the siege is lifted after a highly redacted version of the information they found is passed on to the Queen. And so our weary protagonists wend their way home to Thistlehold, anxious and concerned about what the future holds for both the lands of Ambria and Davokar, and themselves. And that's our story so far. If you made it all the way through that, then well done. We will return with more Symbaroum live on both Twitch and YouTube. Yes, we're going to be multi-streaming to YouTube for the first time on Wednesday, May 15th. That's our usual time and place. If you're confused about what those might be, check the description. There'll be a bunch of links to all our stuff. Again, thank you very much, and we'll see you in Symbaroum.